Hello, I'm reviewing. I just want to get a seat first, okay? I'm reviewing the X-Men movies from the first one to X-Men Dark Phoenix. All the X-Men movies in one video. From 2000 to 2019, okay? So I'm reviewing the first X-Men movie called X-Men, and the X-Men movie ending it, and also including the last one, all of them to the last one, X-Men Dark Phoenix. What do I think? Because I think they're all as good. The thing about the X-Men movies, I feel like none of them are quite what I wanted from X-Men movies. They're kind of underwhelming at times. It can be a little tedious with, like, you know, okay, well, I'm going to start with the first trilogy. Starting with the first trilogy, the original Saga, and the original trilogy where we thought it was going to end with just 3 in 2006, then X-Men First Class happened in 2011. That was a bit of a few years for X-Men movie to go without X-Men. And, I didn't think they were going to make another one after the third one, okay? I don't think anyone else thought that either. That we were going to get another X-Men more than 3, you know? I just think that for the first 3 original trilogy, I thought it was kind of tedious that the movie that's titled X-Men doesn't really focus on the X-Men members, but focus a little constantly on Wolverine, which is not. He doesn't do a bad job as. Which Hugh Jackman, don't get me wrong, doesn't do a bad job as Wolverine at all for what he's given us. It's just a little odd that they titled it an X-Men movie when it's really more of a Wolverine movie. And they did that 3 times in a row for the first 3. You know, and the Wolverine doesn't really talk to any of the X-Men or interact with the X-Men hardly. Yeah, the X-Men don't really often interact with Wolverine in the movie. But then he doesn't say that much. He doesn't interact with them either that much in the movie. Which is probably a little different than what I've seen from Wolverine from past iterations. It was a little different from Wolverine from the comics and also even from the X-Men cartoons. So yeah, the X-Men don't really interact with each other hardly like they do in the comics. Like in the comics, the X-Men, they interact with each other, but these X-Men, they don't really do a whole lot. They don't ever really interact with each other ever. They mostly just stare at each other and talk. They mostly just stare at each other for. When they talk, they do the bit amount of talking and to each other and they don't have the most funny or interesting conversations in the original X-Men trilogy at all. They say pretty much the most mundane of boring, casual stuff to each other. And they even, when they're not wearing the, yeah, in the original X-Men trilogy, yeah, the X-Men characters as exciting in the X-Men trilogy. The X-Men characters are as outside of Wolverine. The X-Men characters suck. Okay, for Fox brand of the X-Men, I'm just going to say that because the X-Men members outside of outside the Wolverine, I gotta admit, Wolverine and Charles was good in the trilogy. Xavier, Charles Xavier, the guy who played Charles Xavier, he was good in the trilogy. I think Charles Xavier was even the guy that played Charles Xavier did a better job than Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine in this trilogy, because I feel like, I feel like Charles was better written in the trilogy than Wolverine was. Not that Wolverine was written bad in the trilogy, he just wasn't as written as good as Charles was in the trilogy. Xavier. And the rest of the characters kind of there's not much to say about the rest of the characters in the Fox universe plus the original trilogy. And I give the original trilogy from X-Men 1 to X-Men 3, Last Stand, all three of the original X-Men trilogy get an 8 out of 10 for above average guilty pleasure in my book, each one, in the original trilogy. Now I'm going to talk about X-Men First Class, the 2011 release of X-Men. That's Elsewhere reboot that takes but then it's kind of like it's basically a alternate timeline reboot. Because when we get to Days of Future Past, we find out that the cast that play the characters from the old X-Men movies, the original trilogy, and the cast, and also some of the cast that played the X-Men in the new X-Men movie of X-Men First Class, they basically share the same past. They share the same history. We find out. And X-Men Days of Future Past, the road cut and also the theatrical cut. I give the road cut a 8 out of 10 for above average of X-Men Days of Future Past. Because it's basically the same movie. It's a guilty pleasure in my book though. X-Men Days of Future Past, the road cut. It's better than the theatrical cut, I think. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I won't go back and forth which one I like more. The theatrical cut also is just as good. It gets an 8 out of 10 also of Days of Future Past. X-Men Days of Future Past is called. Gets a solid 8 out of 10 for a guilty pleasure of a movie. And I give X-Men X-Men First Class from 2011 a 8 out of 10. Because the CGI doesn't look like the best. It looks like a rushed product. I hear this was a rushed product. X-Men First Class was a rushed movie, I hear. And that's probably why the CGI on base looks like shit. And the CGI on the green scene looks like shit, and pretty much most of the CGI stuff looks like absolute unfinished crap. It's like, it looks worse than Superman 4 times, the CGI. In this movie. Looks visually more unimpressive than Superman 4 Quest for Peace. It looks that bad visually on an aesthetic level. But on a story level, it's not that half bad compared to the first three that were out at the time prior before this one of First Class. Why I give it an 8 out of 10 for another guilty pleasure. Solid 8 out of 10 for a guilty pleasure for my book. Above average. It is. And now we make it to X, and also I give X-Men Apocalypse a 8 out of 10, and X-Men Dark Phoenix, the last one from 2019, a 8 out of 10. All of the X-Men films from 2000 to 2019 X-Men movies with the new and old cast, including the one that used including Days of Future Past, the one that used both. Okay, when that was that I think is the best of these bunch is Days of Future Past. X-Men Days of Future Past is definitely the best out of the bunch that uses both casts of the old Fox universe and the new Fox universe, and tells coherent narratives. It does the best job telling a story structure and making the X-Men feel like a superhero team. Even though they're not a superhero team in the Fox universe, technically they're more like, well, they're not the most superhero-ish team in this Fox universe. They kind of don't do much in the Fox universe. I come to think of it, I think. Because they usually just mind their own business and don't really go out for doing superhero things in the Fox universe. Before, yeah, come to think of it, they don't really do any superhero things like save human lives besides mutant lives, like in the comics or in the X-Men animated series. They don't really do any superhero attacks, however. The only time we get to see that is in the last one, X-Men Dark Phoenix, is when they only acknowledge as superheroes, is because that's the only time when they actually see them doing those things, saving human lives, and sometimes and I think that might be why it feels like the worst out of the Fox movies, because it feels like so out of the norm for them to take that, to try to tell, like, show that side of the X-Men, the superhero side, and they don't make it work, do they? They make it kind of weird and cringe when they try to make them as heroes, like in the comics. And I think that's the problem with the new saga of the X-Men run from Fox. See, the old X-Men one was constantly focused on keeping the X-Men's, in the narrative of the story, under a low profile and out of the public, and behind, so that way they can live in peace, and keep the focus on constantly on Wolverine, but show they never really do any heroics hardly ever. They just teach kids to control and mentor them into controlling their powers is what the first one was constantly focusing on, but never really the heroics ever the X-Men kind of do in the comics or in the even in the animated series. They do that, like act like heroes because they are, but they never do anything heroic in the original trilogy. But when they get to the new saga, X-Men First Class, that's when they start, well, trying to write them more like actual active heroes, like having them work with humans, you know, for the government, for the first X-Men team and the X-Men First Class. And then we see in X-Men Days of Future Past, Mystique saves the president, who is also a human, and makes people see that not all mutants are bad, because of Mystique sparing and saving the president's life that she was going to kill. And this alternate timeline that's explained in Days of Future Past was in the events of the movie of Days of Future Past. Very complicated stuff it can be. Time multiverse X-Men stuff with time logic. And I think that's the, and also they do, and they also like in X-Men Apocalypse, like the fight Apocalypse was trying to end all, is trying to end like this one, like this who goes up against Apocalypse, and they kind of save the whole world in Apocalypse, humans and mutants' lives, and they're recognized for their heroic deeds. And by the time X-Men Apocalypse it wraps up, and then ties into picks up where Apocalypse rests off, it then ends like there. It was like, am I the one that noticed that the new 4 X-Men movie that Fox came out with versus the original trilogy, they actually tried to make the X-Men team as competent heroes of a team Like, they're trying to make the X-Men come across more as heroes, like in the comics, than the original trilogy was trying. Now, I don't think Fox did a really good job showing making the heroic actions of the X-Men movie come across cool. It came across a lot of times cringe and stage. And, like, I don't know, there's something, they have, you know how, the Avengers movies, like, at least the first one from 2012 knew how to, or at least the first two Avengers movie, okay? Was Joss Whedon that directed it. And with the first two Avengers movie, I noticed how the first two Avengers movie does a lot of job making, like, the heroics of the Avengers feel cool and epic in terms of shooting it and making it feel cool, the heroics of the Avengers. The heroics of the X-Men, at least in the new Saga, because that's what I'm talking about right now in this video at this point, for the last 4 X-Men movies by Fox, they don't know how to make the heroics of the X-Men movies anything but cringe. Like, cringe. Like, you couldn't make that feel cool. You just had to make that feel, like, awkward. And stupid. Like, okay, I know you know this is a comic book movie, but please, do you have to be so pretentious, obvious, and saying that comic books are stupid? And rubbing in our faces. That you don't care and just want our money? That's what it feels like sometimes when you do the heroic stuff for the X-Men, okay? It feels like cringe. Stupid cringe. Is why I give all the X-Men movies from 2000 to 2019, ending with X-Men Dark Phoenix to beginning with X-Men, the first one from 2000's X-Men movie, starring Hugh Jackman is the role that pretty much made him a movie star, come to think of it. I give all of them an 8 out of 10. They're really not that great of a movie. It's the guilty pleasures at best. They're above average. This is not exactly what I wanted from X-Men movie or for anything. It's just not the best kind of X-Men movie I wanted. Any of these are. All disappointments, I think. This is why I give them an 8 out of 10 for above average. They're not bad, they're just not good. But they're guilty pleasures is why I cannot recommend them. I'm just going to say, you're not going to hate yourself if you watch them. But the guilty pleasures nonetheless for me, and maybe for other people they are. Maybe other people realize how I just don't understand why some people. I don't understand why some people can hate so many X-Men movie, and then some people can dislike one X-Men movie from Fox, because they're all disappointments from Fox Studios. Just as much as the next one. I feel like once you see the one X-Men movie, you've seen all of them. After a certain point, you know? It's like, if you see the latest X-Men movie, and it's probably because they don't wear their costumes like in the comics. Well, that's probably it. Yeah, they don't wear costumes, the X-Men. In the X-Men movies, they don't wear the costumes from the comics. They just wear Fox designed costumes that Fox made for the movies. Exclusively. In the original trilogy and in the new Saga was the last 4 movies of X-Men that we fall in the new X-Men run. That ends with Dark Phoenix. And that's why I give all X-Men movies a 8 out of 10. From the first one to the last one. They are guilty pleasures. Nonetheless, I give them an above average rating. 8 out of 10. That's my review on the X-Men saga, all X-Men movies that I reviewed in this video. Okay, I'm Jake Allen Graham. That's my review on X-Men movies that I reviewed in this video. And hit the bell first, hit the subscribe button second to get subscribed. You hit both in that order. and hit thumbs up to like my video. Hit the thumbs up to like my older videos when you get around to that. Checking out my older videos, and you don't have to check out them in any specific order. You can just check them out whenever you want to, and don't have to watch them in any specific order. But remember to like my older videos and hit the like button on my older videos if you like them. Okay, bye.